Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Mind the Gap. In today's episode, we're taking you behind the scenes of our very own development team at Skewb Climate, the creative minds turning big ideas into interactive gamified learning experiences. From children's mental wellness games to educational tools for major industries like utilities and defence, this team is redefining how we learn, grow and play. Whether you're a learning innovator, industry leader, or just curious about the future of education, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Mind the Gap. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got the Skewb Climate development team with us here today, which is very exciting. I'm going to start by asking you guys to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about, and our audience, about what you do at Skewb Climate.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm the technical lead for the internal development team at Skewb Climate, and we focus on building educational experiences for people of all diverse backgrounds and all abilities. So
if I was to just ask in a bit more detail, if I wasn't sure what a technical lead means in the game development world, what is it your kind of day-to-day that you do?
Oh, okay. So I'm basically the team leader for the internal development team. I project manager, I do a bit of game design and engineering. My background is from programming and building games, so I sort of lend my skills from that to it, and more of a sort of project management side of it at the moment.
So how many hats you wear simultaneously?
Yeah. All of them at the same time.
A lot of hats.
Just like Team Fortress 2.
Love that.
Yeah.
Lewis?
So it's me next, yep. So I'm Lewis. I'm a senior developer. I have come from a web development background, though I do have experience with game development from my university years. So I kind of do a bit of everything. I also occasionally help out with going to schools and doing the school delivery programs as well with the rest of the team. So kind of a bit of everything. At the moment, mostly web development, but keen to get my teeth back into some game development in the future. So yeah.
Nice, thank you.
I'm Alex. I'm one of the two technical artists on the Skewb Climate team. So my job is to create a lot of assets. So I do a lot of character design, a bit of environmental design, and I do lots of other creative bits and bobs, like if we have some videos to edit or some storyboards to make, I'll often try my hand at that as well. But a lot of the time I'm working with Lloyd, who's so opposite me, and I will give him some assets and he will take a look at them and often tell me, do it again. And
from a technical
yes, not that.
Not
He's not telling me I'm a terrible artist and sending me home crying. It's more that he's like, yeah, it looks great, but I can't use it. So then he tells me why there's something wrong with it. And so because I'm fairly new to actual games design, I was more of an animator before this. So so because Lloyd's got loads of experience in actual game dev, he knows what he's doing. So that's how we tend to work together.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads me nicely to you, Lloyd. So explain a little bit about what you do.
So I'm a programmer, like technical side of things. So I get all the assets from Alex and put them into the game to make them work, make them into an actual game, make them move or explode or do other things, and put all the systems together that make games a game, such as like move the character or leaderboards or anything like that, all that kind of things, all the gamified things. That's the bits that I like
love that.
to add.
It feels like that's the magic. I can't actually even get my head around what that must look like and what that is day to day. I just kind of just think it happens. Yeah.
Like magic.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Just a magic box.
Yeah, just a magic box. Sprinkle a little bit of ones and zeros, a little bit of codey things, and it just outputs nice pictures of things.
Love that. Mikhail, last but not least.
Hi, hello, I'm Mikhail. For some time, my job title is a game artist. In our official document, it's a technical artist. So the stuff I'm doing in Skewb Climate is mostly 2D graphics and 3-dimensional graphics. So my like educational background is book illustration, surprisingly. And since the whole concept of creating imaginary worlds, weird characters, stylizing thing, analyzing thing, deconstructing things, it's all coming together almost swimmingly in game development. So the transition was quite swift and a needy one, because like my first career years were in publishing and advertising, and that's kind of jarring, especially with when we're trying to compare something that we're doing at Skewb Climate, which is interesting, original, and educational.
Excellent. And that leads nicely on to, actually, what inspires you guys about working at Skewb Climate?
I'll take this one. I think part of the work we do is great in lots of different ways and from different angles, because creating a game is building a story that people actually take part in themselves. And because part of our approach is to build something that's accessible to a lot of people with different neurodiversity needs, different motor abilities and things like that, different ages, everything. It's really useful to be able to, take their kind of, not limitations, but their requirements of using the software and these products into account when we design the game. So it's giving something to people that may not have had that thing before, the ability to access, because everybody deserves to experience the joy of gaming.
Yeah.
And that's a rewarding part of it for me.
Definitely.
Like that.
I think as well, I'm speaking from a school delivery side from what I just mentioned, but just going to schools and seeing kids' face light up as soon as you tell them they're going to be playing games, they love it.
They love it.
So I think I've always been quite keen on basically gamification of education and any other tools that you can use gamification for. I mean, I've played games for my entire life since I was like 5 years old, but it's amazing what you can achieve with games, especially with the addition of technology that we're getting, such as virtual reality and stuff. Just proper training courses and stuff exist, like medical training simulations and such.
For me, it's because there's a huge amount of variety in my role. Like when I was first hired, I kind of thought it was going to be just, right, I'm going to be making sort of Minecraft related stuff, and that was going to be it. But then it turned out I wasn't really doing much Minecraft at all, and it was more, let's make a character for this new game that we're coming up with. And then it was, let's make some buildings for this other thing. And, Alex, we've got a video to edit. Can you help with that? And so every day is kind of really different for me. Like in the past, like I mentioned, I worked in animation, and every single day it was the same thing. I had a number of shots to get through, and I had to hit that target every day. Otherwise, the rest of the team would kind of fall apart because they didn't have their background animation to work on. And it could, even if you were working on a really fun thing, it could get really monotonous and boring. So because it's so different, such variety, it really keeps things lively and keeps things fresh.
Fair enough. I like that. What is it they say? Spice is the variety of life or something?
The other way around.
Yeah. Other way around.
Yeah.
Variety is the spice.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
How about you, Lloyd?
The broad variety of projects that we're working on is, there's a potential there to go into sectors that have not really been tapped into, such as the utility side of things. Is a massive area that is basically untapped. So we should be that's very exciting to work in that area. And it's just like what Alex said, the variety of projects is quite good.
Okay, so just for people that maybe aren't aware of what game development looks like, what does the process look like for you guys when not necessarily from start to finish in great detail, but kind of an overview of how you create the content and how you make sure it's educational and fun?
Yeah, so right from the beginning, I think a nice place to start is always with the objective. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we going to finish with what we've got? How much capacity have we got? So we start from design pillars. We say this game must be fun. It must be educational. The learning outcomes are the child must learn to cross the road safely, or A, B, and C, and you start from those, and that's a sort of core foundation which you can then use to inform the rest of the design. From those design pillars, you can sort of flesh out exactly what experiences may look like. You can say, are we constrained by devices? Should this be available on iPad only, for example? If that's the case, then obviously there's a touchscreen limitation that you have to take into account. All of these things go into a design document, and then that you can use that design document to iterate upon, and basically as a blueprint to flesh out and implement the designs, and hopefully it all ends up being what the original vision was. That's the perfect version of it. Obviously it's a sort of...
in real life?
Yeah, there's that drawing, isn't there, where you think it's like climbing a hill, where it's actually up and down and all over the place. So you have to be agile, and you have to sort of jump over gaps and revert things and delete stuff. And one of the things I found with the development of games particularly is you always end up cutting out more than you would like. So you start off with this grand vision, and you end up with a smaller version of the grand vision.
So sometimes the idea kind of comes after the visual for me, which is a bit like you'd think it's sort of counterintuitive, but the game that we're currently working on, it has certain well-being, wellness sort of themes, but it didn't start off with me thinking, right, I'm going to come up with a wellness idea. It started off with a visual that just popped into my head that happened to be a person with their head on fire, and that was it. That was the visual. And I was literally lying on my sofa thinking about whatever, like my weird creative thoughts that sort of come and go. And I had this image of like a little man with his head on fire, and so that got me thinking. And I started kind of working backwards from that visual, thinking, right, what could the fire represent, and is there some way that I could get a game idea out of this? And so you're almost like mining for inspiration from the visual and not the other way around. And so that was kind of how our game really started, just by having that little flash of inspiration that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't really know what it was all about. And then we just worked backwards from there. And so started thinking, well, fire is kind of like anger, and so all right, maybe it's a game about emotions and controlling your anger and that kind of thing. And so that was how it all started. So it was sort of started backwards from the visual. Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that obviously Alex can come to you with this kind of suggestion. This is the character I've seen, this is what I'm thinking. What would be the practical steps for you guys? Like, what is it that you then need to actually be able to create this?
So we'd take like the seed of an idea, and then define the scope of what is this character going to do, or what this idea is. How far is it going to go? What things then do we have to get in place to implement that to make it into a full-fledged game? And then this is not anywhere near the actual product at the end. This will just be small ideas, putting those together, seeing what fits, what doesn't fit. A lot of things get put on the cutting floor, more ideas get added from the other ideas, and then we start to snowball that into a game design. And then from that, then you can then reiterate again and again and again, and this goes on and on and on, and more meetings and meetings on top of meetings, and then eventually we'll probably get to something that is close to the actual idea, start to implement some of those ideas, which then will show what sticks, what doesn't stick. And then once we've done that, we go around the roundabout again, and then we iterate, change bits, add bits, take bits, and the idea then is like blossoms into a tree.
Yeah, and I suppose what I've managed to see from the bits that I do see of you guys is it does snowball, doesn't it? Like, you'll start off with something really small, little idea, and then it really starts to get pace at some point, and I can tell you're all getting excited about it in the chat, and everything's like adding new bits, new ideas. So I suppose, is it just a cycle of revisiting that and making sure everything that does it work? Is it an idea that we maybe need to park for now, and just going in those cycles until you get to the point where you think, right, this could actually be what we're going to develop?
Yeah. So it just takes some, the technical term is like an agile development. So they'll be, twice a week type sprints that we'll do, which is like working within that time frame. We then, iterate in that time to add things, take things out, change things up, what worked, what didn't work, and then that process then repeats again. So
Nice.
And sometimes what I've found with this game we're currently working on is I'll have an idea, like the original kind of core of the idea, and then it will start to snowball, and we will add new things, and new bits and pieces will get kind of bolted onto it, and it will change completely. And there'll be a little part of me that gets a bit sad. I go, oh, that's not really what I had in mind initially. But then it kind of keeps rolling, and then you start whittling away at that snowball and sort of chopping it down again. And then often you find it circles completely back to where you were at the beginning. And it ends up being the original idea after all. And you're like, oh, okay. And I keep in the chat finding myself saying, oh yeah, that is actually what I originally had in mind, and feeling really pleased about it. But there have been all these sort of extra avenues that we've sort of had to go down, and sometimes things survive the process of whittling down, and sometimes things stay in that you kind of forgot why they got put in there. And like we've had in this game, we had these characters of the crows. Lloyd's gonna roll his eyes about the crows, because the crows survived for a really long time, and we all kept looking at each other going, why have we got these crows in here? And we realized it was the solution to another problem that we kind of got rid of, and somehow the crows just stayed there. And in the end, we kind of all looked at each other and said, right, we don't need them, right?
But there was one point where we took them out and then we added them back in.
Yes. Yes.
And then now they're out.
They're they are out. Yeah, they are out now. Because every time we mention the crows, we all kind of just give a collective sigh, like, oh my God, the crows are back. So, but yeah, it's weird how it works. Yeah, they were like a solution to a problem, and then that problem vanished, and we kind of just forgot that we didn't need them anymore.
Yeah. They're going to become something that appears in every
game
now.
Yeah,
aren't they? Like, we've got something that we need to do there. We'll just put the crows there as a bit of a placeholder. Yeah. You guys hosted a game jam.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to talk us through what that is and what its purpose is and what that kind of looks like, because I think it's quite an interesting concept if you're not familiar with this industry.
When you're talking about a game jam, traditionally a game jam in the sense of the word is that you'll have a large collection of people join together, you'll have a task or a goal of essentially create a game with this theme or this aspect. And the groups of people or individuals will work together to try and build a game with that aspect or feature. It can be about anything. It could be about environment. It could be about buses. I don't know. Just random thing that popped into my head. Literally anything.
Yeah.
But what we did is not so much a traditional game jam, but we wanted to get together and just basically throw our heads together. We had a project that we needed to start, and we weren't really quite sure where to start with it or how to start it. So we thought, we'll go rent out a room somewhere in this hotel. We'll say, okay, we're going to just put all our heads together and kind of come up with an idea. We're staying in this room until we've come up with one. So that's kind of what we did at that point there. That's how Scotty's Kindness Quest was born.
I love that.
So, I think it was, Mikhail, it was like one of your first weeks at the Skewb.
Even better. It was the first time in my life I've seen Lloyd IRL, and I guess Ben joined
I missed the game jam.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
so like a week after or something, and I had a notification from my phone that told me that it was like 2 weeks ago. I've checked in pretty much a year ago to the hotel we were staying in for a game jam. So I let Lloyd exactly let him know that was like exactly a year ago you appeared in my life.
Maybe it's time to do another one.
Yeah.
You've obviously all got very different backgrounds, and you, like you say, you come at things very differently. So I suppose that must bring quite a diverse range of skills and ideas and styles as well, I imagine.
Each discipline comes from a personality type, as I've discovered through my years. So like artists, like really creative, they'll come up with like fireworks and crazy ideas, whereas the programmers are probably more, let's keep it a little bit more like, doable.
Yeah, you've got to rein us in, and channel those firework ideas.
Whereas like animators, like full on, like they'll just want to animate like everything, and then we're making a game now, not a video. Like that's that balance. Yeah, that balance. And then obviously like sound engineers, they just want to make everything like just explode. Like VFX, just the VFX artists are just put fire everywhere, fire everywhere, and water, fire and water. Like, does that work?
I feel like maybe there's been some of that in our recent little trailer that we released for what we're working on, because there's a lot of fire in there. It's like fire everywhere.
Yeah, not enough fire.
Yeah, we did have discussions about that. Yeah. Is there enough fire?
Someone clearly won on that one. The VFX, was it? They won.
Oh no, there could have been more fire. I think Lloyd, you wanted more fire,
I
didn't you?
More fire, yeah.
This new version of the video appeared in the chat with like a million sort of spouts of flame coming up, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? And Lloyd sort of sheepishly admitted, "Oh, put it in an AI generator." I'm like, no, don't do it. Yeah.
Love it. AI gets everywhere.
Yeah,
pesky AI.
Yeah,
it's the future.
It is the future. It is. I'm on board with it, but I know a lot of people aren't. Actually, just a bit of an off topic though.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of it when it comes to like game development and AI, and what that is there pros and cons? Is there?
Oh yeah. Well, it's any tool that you'll use in your life is it's got pros and cons. Like we've all got laptops nowadays. 20 years ago we would have had a probably you could have a laptop 20 years ago, but
it's relatively new.
Yeah. And those technical based tools, they'll they enhance, like like in this country we don't have a lot of heavy manufacturing. We've obviously got specialist manufacturing, but we don't do like like I'm from Sheffield, so we don't do lots of steel anymore and things like that. And but people have moved on to the different ways of working, so everyone's in an office now and everyone's using laptops or working from home and things like that. So AI is just a progression, a new tool to add. Now obviously that's going to upset the established markets of different working patterns and things like that. But it's a tool to be used in the correct manner. Now I think that it's been sensationalized in the media a lot with like it's going to take everyone's jobs and things like that, but I heard the same from some of the animators that I know that went through the mocap, a motion capture era where motion capture was rubbish. You then add these systems that cost a lot. They then went, I could just animate, just put someone in a suit, have them run around, animation done, happy days. That's, and then all the animators are like, well, that's my job gone. I don't have to do all the animation anymore. And what am I going to do? But actually, what you've got now is motion capture animators and animators. It's a specialised job of that particular tool that's been developed.
And I suppose it's learning to harness the tool as well as the option there, right? If you're the person that can do it, can use it, you've got opportunity. Exactly. So if you can use that tool to the best of that tool's ability, then obviously you're going to be an advantage over someone that just refuses to use it on a principle level. I'm pretty sure the cottage industries of the Industrial Revolution, you'd have people like that, and obviously it comes with pluses and minuses. Obviously everyone moved to the cities, and everyone I think people's lifestyles were reduced, it wasn't good for them. But then at the same time, working in a field that era, that's what those people were probably doing. Which one have they? Is it better for them? I'm not a historian. But there's pros and cons to both, isn't there? I suppose, and it's, I suppose for you, I know we've had this conversation before. Being an artist, there's different implications.
There are. I mean, I was pretty devastated at one point about AI because before I worked for Skewb, I was a storyboard artist and animator and storyboard artist, and I was just starting to do all right, and I was getting some quite big jobs and working with some quite cool clients, and like a few famous people were cropping up in my inbox, and I had my first storyboarding job was for the model Cara Delevingne, and then so it was like for a perfume ad for her, and I thought, oh wow, that's cool. I've actually heard of her, and then did a job for what's his name, LeVar Burton, who was in Star Trek. He was Geordie LaForge in Star Trek, and he's a big reading proponent. He's before he was on Star Trek, he was encouraging people to read, and he was on a TV show called Reading Rainbow. So he's very passionate about it, and he produced an app to encourage adult literacy, and so did an advert for him, and then one for Ariana Grande, and it was all rolling, and it was feeling quite exciting, and then nothing. It just suddenly stopped, and I had an agent. Well, I still do have an agent, but I suddenly stopped getting any work from her, and I had to ask, like, why has it suddenly gone quiet? And she said, Alex, there's like 2/3 of our business is gone overnight, and it was because it was a certain level of storyboard that suddenly got gobbled up. So the big like Hollywood storyboard artists, they're still fine, but it's the ones that are kind of the mid-level ones like me. They who were being approached by ad agencies who just needed something. They're like, oh, we need a bit of artwork to just show to the client that this is what we've got in mind, and they were the people that were coming to me. And suddenly they didn't have to come to me anymore, because they just went on like Midjourney or something and say, draw me a storyboard featuring Cara Delevingne, and suddenly it did, and so it took all that power and put it in the hands of the actual ad agency rather than the artist. So that was suddenly gone, and that was pretty devastating. And so I know a lot of artists who are suddenly out of a job, but it does go like that. But the thing that I'm more concerned with AI is how it becomes the latest cool thing, and when one of those comes along, every company just wants to insert it into everything, and you'll see it everywhere right now. Like, oh, look at our finance company, we use AI, and it's like, oh, okay, and
no one actually knows what that means.
Yes, they're just they're just slapping it on everything, and a lot of the time it's not doing a great job. And if you go onto YouTube, for instance, I am constantly just being driven crazy by film trailers popping up, and I look at it and I think, oh, that looks interesting, and then it's not a real film. It's just something that they've made up, and they've just churned out with an AI generator just to like get views and clicks, and it drives me absolutely nuts. And I, because I'm a big film fan, and I know you are as well, and you want to see the new thing coming out. Like I'm really looking forward to the new Highlander film, and I saw a thing pop up with Henry Cavill as the Highlander, and I know that's a real thing that's coming, but I thought there was a trailer, and it wasn't. It was just a made up AI one, and it looked terrible. It looked awful, but they still made it, and they still got me.
From a development perspective, what are your thoughts on AI?
Well, I'm personally a big fan. Again, when it comes to programming, I understand around the ethics of training AI for art and things like that. You're training on data that probably wasn't given permission to be trained on. But when it comes to development, a lot of the code that they use to train on is open source code, or code that you've got off of websites like Stack Overflow. So it's all public code, and to be honest, a lot of a developer's work is looking things up on the internet and finding things on Stack Overflow that you might not have known, and then basically copying and pasting their code effectively,
right.
Maybe adjusting it here and there. But when it comes to AI, it's effectively doing the same thing for you, but concising it, making it a lot easier for you as well. So there's many tools out there, such as I think it's GitHub's Copilot, which is a great tool to integrate into your own IDE, which is development system, and you can use it to basically search through your code base and tell you what you need to do if you get stuck on a problem. So to a developer, at least to myself, I see it as a great tool to be used.
Faster search engine, I suppose.
Effectively, yeah. There's a lot of talk about how SEO is going out of the window because of AI and such, because as you've probably, everyone who's noticed, if you Google something, the first result now is an AI response. So the world is changing.
It is.
It's amplifies your intent like any technology does. I can't remember who quote that's from, but it's got good and bad. You know, it can be used for evil, but at the same time, it's a leverage of efficiency. So you can do the menial tasks a lot faster. There are negative consequences to this as well, especially through the art side of things, and more sort of long-reaching negative effects as well about what Mikhail was talking about. From a production point of view, it's like the invention of the hammer. It's a tool. If used correctly, it can vastly improve the efficiency. Raising the bar for the quality of technology worldwide and enabling people worldwide to have access to a similar level of quality that they didn't have before. That all sounds very good. Obviously, it's very powerful and we need to be careful with how we implement it. It will take over everything in some way. I'm not saying Terminator 2 or even Terminator, but it's definitely the biggest development since the World Wide Web in terms of actually being able to produce things. You can get AI to build you a game or an app or a video or a film just with some prompts, and there will always be the need for that driver, the person inputting the prompts, to be the director and say, this is what I want. No, that's not quite right. So you do have that necessity to have the ability to be able to say, I recognize when it isn't doing the thing exactly right. I can get someone who's never coded before and they can write a program using AI. That doesn't mean it will be good code.
Yeah.
It might be, but we need to also have the ability to recognize when it produces something that isn't quite fit for purpose. And when you're writing code to a professional standard, it needs to have that sort of QA layer to say, no, this part is definitely not going to fit our intention.
Okay, so just moving on from that, do you guys see a skills gap within the game development industry, particularly around educational content?
Interestingly, I think there's almost a kind of opposite problem at the moment, because the landscape for technology jobs and specifically game jobs is pretty competitive at the moment because there's been a lot of layoffs recently. So there's, at the moment, it's almost the opposite in that you've got a lot of expert people who are looking for work and they need a job, which is, it's not exactly a nice problem to have because you've got this abundance of really talented people. You know, I wish they all could have careers and jobs and be happy, but
at the same time, there's a flip side to it.
Yes.
Because if we're talking about skill gap in art, for example, we are on the brink, on a cusp of never seen before event. Because as many of us and hopefully our listeners know, there are different, one could say, titles we can attach to a professional. So there are like junior artists, there are middle grade artists, there are senior artists, just like with coders and other types of developers, right? And with junior artists, it's pretty much folks who are getting out of their degrees and they are like completely fresh and new. They're looking for places in the industry. They are doing a bunch of jobs that are not, let's say, extremely glamorous or very fulfilling, but that's just any other junior position. It doesn't matter if you're in hospitality, it doesn't matter if you're working at the office desk or whatnot, right? It's pretty much, if you're young, you're throwing your dice, you're getting every not extremely interesting task from the heart. But at the same time, with the rise of large language learning models, the so-called generative AI, the cursed creation of dark warlocks, is for many development teams that aren't available, the many teams that aren't equipped to have junior creative on board. They are using the horrifying like Mid-Journey or whatnot, other aberrations and monstrosities from the dark corners of the web to pretty much substitute the creativity of the junior level professional.
Yeah.
And that means that for the last 2 years, there is a generation of professionals that pretty much they've spent an insane amount of time mastering the craft to get to the junior level.
Yeah.
And never, for at least 2 years, and 2 years can mean everything in a young person's life.
Yeah.
Right? And those professionals aren't getting those initial jobs. They are not getting the kickstart to their careers.
Yeah.
And therefore, they're pursuing other career possibilities. We would be extremely lucky if those junior professionals would go to utilities.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're spending half a decade mastering a craft, and then you are forced to spend your years, waiting tables. There's nothing wrong with waiting tables, but there is a bitter disappointment in spending your best years of your youth and immediate start of your professional career on something that is just not that.
Yeah.
And for the first time in the history of ever, we will have a complete generation of young professionals who will vanish. Right now, exactly what Ben said, right? We have middle grade artists, we had super experienced senior artists, but there will be a skill gap. There will be like a giant breach in qualified juniors because they are forced by technology to either be self-taught to rise on the mid position without getting paid for that. So they will have to be more stressed. They will have to be more developed as professionals. Without this, nurturing educational environment.
Yeah.
So a person needs to be pretty much battle-hardened and stalwart, just overcoming insane amount of obstacles to get a position that is not a starting position.
Yeah. Can either of you share, or both of you, whichever works best, share a story about a game that you've worked on that successfully targeted specific learning outcomes or skill development areas?
I can definitely got some examples of this.
Excellent, thank you.
There was a project that I worked on that taught doctors, nurses and pharmacists on how not to kill people, which is very nice.
Yeah,
I suppose.
It's
good
that one was a success.
yeah. I think it maybe ticks that box. So it was an app, augmented reality app that you had virtual patients. You then you asked the virtual person questions dependent on the scenario that person lived in. Then the answers that they give you were different, and give you the clues that you need to whittle out what drugs and treatments that you'd have to give them, and then the nurses would have to give them the drugs and the treatments or whatever, and the pharmacists would have to give the nurses the drugs and treatments, and it all required them to all work together, pick up on that this person's got some kind of like allergy to a particular drug, but if the doctor doesn't pick it up, then the pharmacist is supposed to pick it up, but if they don't pick it up, the nurse is supposed to pick it up, and this all goes into like not treating people in hospital, really.
That's cool. And do you think you could see that type of game development in the utilities industry, like more?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. One of the projects that we have worked on here is teaching people how to do street-based activities in terms of digging up the roads in a safe and responsible manner, doing the correct procedures that have been in place for health and safety of public and the workers themselves and things like that. And then that the virtual reality or the augmented reality or the 3D gamification drives a pathway to people to do it safely and to do it in any weather or anyone can do it from any background as long as they've got a computer and an internet connection.
Okay, final question, guys. We ask all of our guests this. I'm going to ask each of you individually. Okay. If you could go back in time to your younger self when you're starting out your career, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Who's first?
Whoever wants to go first, I'll let you decide.
I don't mind going first.
Okay.
So I'll be honest, when I was younger, when I first started university even, terrified of programming, didn't understand it at all. I hated it. I specifically chose, in my university course, there was 2 branches. You could either do games art or games programming. A lot of my friends went the games programming route. I didn't want to touch that with a barge pole. I was like, no, I'm okay. I'll go the games art. Turns out I'm not a very good artist when it comes to it. And then when I picked up programming, I surprisingly loved it. It just took a while to click. So I'd tell myself, don't be so intimidated by programming. Like, try giving it a go, see if you can pick it up, see if it clicks, and it eventually will. And yeah, that's kind of the career path I went down.
Nice message for our younger listeners as well.
Can I just use that one again? It's good advice. Just, I guess if I was telling myself, it's just not to be intimidated. When you start out, everything looks big and scary, and it always seems like an impossible, insurmountable task. But all these programming languages and software packages are designed to be easy to use. Mm-hmm. It's like, how come everybody can drive a car? A car is designed in such a way that it makes everything easy and intuitive, and you just flow, and once you start doing it, get used to it, you can just do it. It's like falling off a log, I suppose. So it's just to never stop trying to improve each day and just keep going, because the moment you stop, that's the only way you'll fail. If you keep going, then eventually you'll get what you want. Mine is to do the thing that you want to do as early as you possibly can, and don't doubt that you can do it. Because I kind of always wanted to be an artist, but I didn't think I could do it. And I thought it was going to be much too difficult, and that so many artists out there, and just seemed unrealistic. And so I then took a hideous job in a bank and worked in the bank for a few years, and it was just the worst. And I was being shouted at on the phone every day. I was working in fraud, so everyone was always upset, and I was either talking to criminals or I was talking to the victims of criminals, and it was just misery. And it got so bad that in the end I had to say, I have to do something. I have to get out of here. What can I do? And it was that finally pushed me to try and be an artist. I could have done that from the beginning. I could have just said, no, like really, try. And I would have probably been much further on in my career if I had. I'm happy with where I am, but also just take the chance and do it, and just try.
Yeah, like that. Nice, thank you.
So I would then send back my message to my younger self that would probably be something like learn a lot of the different disciplines of subjects that you would have liked to do, find the roles, the job roles that these things can be, have a job at, and then understand them a little bit more before going into that role. From a what is actually entailed in each role, and then the career path that would take, because you can make wrong decisions, wrong choices earlier on, and then that would impact you later on in life, and then you have to either switch lanes, which then comes at it comes at a cost, if that's like personal cost or financial cost or anything like that. That's what I think. You need to, look at yourself, lad, and actually understand the world that you think that you want to go into, and understand all the different disciplines of that industry, whatever that is, and then understand it a lot better than you did, and then go down the path that you feel like could be the one that you want to go down in.
On the career side of things, obviously it would be beneficial to explore more 3D graphics earlier in my life, or to not beat myself over the fact that the academic side of painting is not something that I can have free access to, like oil paintings or huge canvases or actual traditional sculpting with stone and other stuff I was very interested in, but it's just wildly expensive. So digital drawing was an easy alternative. I mean, not easy, but an alternative. More economically accessible, one could say. Yes. And therefore, unfortunately, the time paradox thing, if I would say something to my younger self, that means I would probably won't have the ability to share a fascinating creative journey with you lovely people.
And so you wouldn't say anything at all, because you might change.
Well, you might change things. I love that. Okay, fair enough.
Pretty much my life choices that are absolutely integral with my career choices led me to a time and a place where I've met my lovely wife, and that means that there even a ghostly possibility of not having this wonderful relationship is enough for me to shut the hell up and not send any information in the past.
Our first person who's taken it and we're like, nope, nothing. I like that.
Can I change my answer?
You can. Right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all your insights.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers,
Goodbye.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at Skewb Climate's development team, the people driving innovation in gamified education for industries, children and communities alike. If you found this conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe, leave a review and share it with your network. The more we share, the smaller the gap becomes. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and until next time, stay curious, stay connected and mind the gap.